The Berbers. They were living in northwestern Africa around the region of today's Algeria. And the word Berber comes from Barbara, which was the Roman word for barbarians or something. And they were sometimes living at good terms with Phoenicians living in Carthage, today's Tunisia, sometimes at not so good terms, and also with other people than were in Carthage, the Romans and the Vandals and the Byzantines. They didn't live so good at terms, so they withdrew and stronger back into the desert of Algeria, today's Algeria, into the Sahara. And then they were living there, and when in the 7th century there came Arab people and they became Muslims. They had then marabouts, people who were living frugal and morally. And then in the 8th century they expanded, their empire grew. In the 10th, 11th and 12th century it even expanded into Spain under the Almohads and Almoravids. One of these Almohads was Ida Tamur, who said he was a Mahdi, a person prophesied by Muhammad to come, a holy person. Then in the 12th century, the Berber Empire was conquered by the Arabs. And that is according to Miles Kell's World History book on the page 250 and 251. The positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and not necessarily aligned with my own or with the ones of the entities spoken of. Hi, welcome. I am trying to learn history, today the Berbers, and after we've done it, we're going to do body-centered training. And if you participate in the body-centered training, that is what you understand. This is the second part, and we have these things written in bullet points about the Berbers. Now some things are certainly oversimplified, but we try to say them as well. Now the Berbers, we keep it back in mind that maybe some things are a bit oversimplified. Now the Berbers, they were living in North Africa. They are living or were living in northwestern Africa, around the region of Algiers, I guess from the context. And Berber comes from the word Barbara, which by the Romans meant barbarians. And sometimes they were allied with Carthage, which is today Tunisia, which had been built as part of a Phoenician empire, who had come from Lebanon over 3,000 years ago. At other times they were also not at good terms with them, and there was battling happening. And then also more non-harmonious living conditions were there. The Romans, the Vandals and the Byzantines were there in modern-day Tunisia, and the Berbers withdrew stronger to the desert region, today's Algeria, I guess. In the 7th century, when Islamic Arabs came and the Berbers became Muslims. I don't really understand the next part. They based their religion around marabouts, holy men who lived very frugal and morally. And they had then marabouts as admired people who lived, I don't even know what frugally means, frugally and morally. Marabouts, frugally, morally. And then in the 8th century they got stronger control from the Umayyad Caliphs. Did they got it granted? Did they conquer it from the Umayyad Caliphs? Maybe I'm skipping that. Umayyad Caliphs, would it be? They started to grow the empire, and then in the 10th, 11th and 12th century it even expanded up until Spain with the Almohads and Almoravids. Almohads, Almoravids. And one of these Almohads was, for example, Ibn Tumad, who said he was a Mahdi, a person who was predicted to come by Muhammad. The Berber Empire was then conquered by the Arabs in the 12th century. Okay, that's right, we have time for 2-3 takes, so maybe we're going to do it another time. The Berbers. They were living in northwestern Africa, around the region of today's Algeria. And the word Berber comes from Barbara, which was the Roman word for barbarians or something. And they were sometimes living at good terms with Phoenicians living in Kafak, today's Tunisia, sometimes at not so good terms, and also with other people than there in Kafak, the Romans and the Vandals and the Byzantines. They didn't live so good terms, so they withdrew even stronger back into the desert of Alger, today's Alger, into the Sahara. And then they were living there, and when in the 7th century there came Arab people and they became Muslims. They had then marabouts, people who were living frugal and morally. And then in the 8th century they expanded, their empire grew. In the 10th, 11th and 12th century it even expanded into Spain under the Almohads and Almoravids. One of these Almohads was Ida Tamur, who said he was a Mahdi, a person prophesied by Muhammad to come, a holy person. Then in the 12th century the Berber Empire was conquered by the Arabs. And that is according to Miles Kell's World History book on the page 250 and 251. The positions and views expressed are the ones of the source and not necessarily aligned with my own or with the ones of the entities spoken of. I hope I said it all right. But I think I did. Even too much. I'm going to write it correctly. Even too much. If you were here for history, you can go directly to the next part of history, and then we will continue with history. If you stay here and participate in the body center training, when is that the oldest? The legs are standing shoulder wide apart, bit down into the knees, flex the legs, press them together, straighten one leg, bend it again. The other leg, straighten it, bend it again. Up. The legs to the sides, down into the knees, flex, press together, over to one side, and the other side, middle, up, closer together, press to the outside. One leg up, and press on the top. The right angle with the leg, flexed foot, even aligned. Hips taller with the back and press on the top. A little bend in the elbow for a sec. And up to the side. And press on the outside. Open. Close. Leg up and press on the top. And from the side. Up and to the side. Press on the outside. Close. And now 3 exercises on the ground. First a side plank on the elbow. Then with one leg up. And then on the long arm. One arm out, one knee, leg up, knee to elbow. And over to the other side. And one leg up. And then on the long arm. Arm out, leg up, knee to elbow. And up again. One heel onto the ground, pull the toes in. Move the leg from left to right. Other leg, pull the toes in, move the leg from left to right. And pull the leg up. The other one. Take a leg at the ankle, tuck it in, change. Legs to the sides, put your finger down. And out. In and up. Out, in and close the legs, and out. It was the body center training. I thank you very much and have a nice day.